how to add mystery and spice back into your relationship with the five sensory as a sixth sensory. This advice is going to sound a little bit different than the typical 5 love languages to insert life back into your marriage, or the typical relationship course that you may engage in online in order to heal your relationship. This is quite different, and if these tips are not employed carefully, if you're doing it as a form of manipulation and it's not genuinely coming from your heart, they can come across to the five sensory, and the five sensory may pick up on what you're trying to do, and it will backfire on you. The five sensory may play more games and more manipulations on you, because usually five sensories are pretty smart and they're constantly searching the information, looking at Reddit, looking at YouTube, or wherever they're going to find their information, and they're constantly figuring out like manipulation games that they can play on other people. And so if they sense that they're being manipulated in any way with any advice that you're given actually as a sixth sensory, it will backfire on you. And that's why it's so important to live the principles that you're hearing about as a high vibrational sixth sensory. If you live the principles, then the advice is not going to go wrong. It's going to steer you in the right direction. So my first advice to add spice back into your relationship as a sixth sensory with your five sensory partner is that you look for a community of six sensories to communicate your concerns and your problems and your wounds to, rather than sharing it with the five sensory. Why is this one so important? It's like the five sensory is your partner or an intimate person in your life. You should be able to share your most intimate secrets, right? And I would say yes, and you don't want to be doing this all the time. It's okay over a long period of time to pepper in a little bit of information at a time in little bite sizes for them to assimilate. But if you're constantly going off the deep end, talking about intuition or talking about your wounds or your trauma all the time in front of five sensories, they're going to get bored. That's when the spice is not going to be so good in your relationship. And sometimes six sensories, we can get really obsessed with relationship courses, like the 5 love languages are a big popular one, and there's nothing wrong with them, but when we're like pushing them on a 5 sensory and we're like, hey, we should do this class together, and they don't really want to do it, the problem is you're opening up too much. You're showing too much interest in them, and basically they'll feel bored, they'll feel too secure, and that's not actually good for them. They actually prefer to feel more variety and for more insecurity in a relationship. And you have to give that to them in healthy, non-manipulative ways, which is a bit challenging to do that in a way that's really upstanding and ethical. But if you can live your life that way and add a bit of mystery naturally, that's when five sensories will be really excited to be with you. And so part of that is being very strategic about when you open up, and be careful about what kinds of personal information and when you share with a five sensory. And we're going to get into this a little bit in number 2 about how to do this. But if you're not sure, just don't share anything ever if you're ever unsure. And then number 2, you'll get a sense of when is the right context to share a little bit. So the next piece of advice, if things are a little rocky and not going well in your relationship as a six sensory with a five sensory, is that you do something fun together. So the one place where six sensories and five sensories can really both bond is when you're doing fun activities together. So you can have fun activities for yourself as a six sensory, where you grow yourself and you nurture yourself and explore your self-love. That's amazing, and you should have your own. Having said that, if you do stuff together with the five sensory, they love and really connect with you over experiences like that. That is like their kryptonite, I guess, that will seduce them and get them enjoying the relationship with you as a six sensory. So plan something fun that the five sensory really wants to do. Like if they're into horror and you're not as a six sensory, it doesn't mean you have to watch horror stuff on your own, but maybe that's the thing that you share with the five sensory sometimes as a special occasion. You know, I'm a bit like that as a six sensory. I'm not a big fan of horror on its own, but sharing it with the right five sensory who really enjoys it, it can be fun. It's a different experience. It adds spice, it adds intrigue. And then after you've had an experience like that, if you want to open up to a five sensory or talk to them about something, that would be the time to do it after they're on a high and they're having a really good time, then you can kind of share and open up a little bit if you really want to. That would be the most ideal time after they've been enjoying themselves. Having said that, if you're not sure or it doesn't seem like the right moment, it's okay to not share anything as well. But if there's something important that you want to communicate and share, and be discerning about this, be really careful when you share, but that would be the ideal time to share if you're going to share with the 5 sensory. Then my next piece of advice is to end the fun time on a high note. I know it kind of relates to the last 2 pieces of advice. So the ending should be a happy note always when you're spending quality time with the 5 sensory. And the person who ends things a little bit early tends to have a bit more power. It can be a little bit of a power game in itself if you're aware of that. The person who ends the date early kind of creates more uncertainty in the other person to want to go out on a date again. And so if you're aware of this, it's not a bad idea. If things have gone wrong with the date or something, try to do something right and have a really fun and great moment, and then after that's over, end it on the high note. Even if something went a little rocky in the conversation or something went wrong in the date, it can be kind of like a test. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are over or it was a bad date, but end it when things are good and then walk away on a high note. That's really a great way to actually get the 5 sensory intrigued and interested in you again, and it can add some spice back into the relationship. And then my last piece of advice in order to add spice and intrigue back into your relationship with a 5 sensory as a 6 sensory, it's that you set some small boundaries. And what I mean by this is you would set boundaries anyway. If the 5 sensory was behaving badly, you would probably stop doing some things for them that you're used to doing. But in small ways, you can do this to add spice and intrigue back into the relationship as well. If it's just something small, I don't recommend doing this on big things, Don't cancel on them if they need a ride somewhere and you've agreed to do it or something like that. But I mean, if you just make coffee for them in the morning and you just don't do it on one morning and you let them get coffee themselves, that can be like a tiny little boundary where you're like giving them some of their independence back, and it adds a little bit of spice and intrigue back into the relationship together. It's like a little secret superpower. It's very normal for us as 6 sensories to do little things for the 5 sensory. Maybe we ask them about their day first, or we say good morning first, and then when you don't do that first, basically that's when you're creating a little bit of spice and intrigue in the 5 sensory, where they're wondering who you are, what you're doing. Maybe you go to a different place. Maybe the 5 sensory is used to hearing you about going to the gym, but then you go and do something else after work, something new. That's another way to create spice and intrigue that creates a little bit of uncertainty, just changing your habits a little bit, taking some privileges away that are small, or just changing your routine up. I guess that's a 5th tip that you can use in order to create more spice and intrigue in your relationship with 5 sensories as a 6 sensory.